What was your I'm dating married to a fucking idiot moment? One day, my then fiancé was very angry with me without warning and started harassing me over, what are you going to do? How are you going to pay for our wedding? How? Basically accusing me of being broke or having no financial plan. After a whole day of me wondering what the heck was going on, she finally went through the numbers. According to this wedding magazine she borrowed from her friends, the average cost of a 200-guest wedding in Tokyo was $80,000 or so. And I did not have that kind of money, like at all. Then I had to literally sit her down and use pen and paper to prove how much our wedding was costing, since I insisted it wouldn't be as much. How much is the venue/ceremony rentals? $2,500. How much is the meal going to cost per guest at the hotel restaurant? $50 to $70. And how much are the hotel rooms we're paying for? $150 night. And how many people are attending the wedding? 13. All said and done, our whole wedding was going to be about $4,500 to $5,000. And we knew this. But after reading one magazine article about mega weddings in Tokyo, my fiancée convinced herself that ours had to cost that much too. She spent nearly 2 days stewing and angry with me before even explaining that this was the reason for her hostility. She was easily influenced like this by anything. Friends' comments, overhearing old ladies' conversations on the train, clickbait news online, etc. And no, I did not go through with the wedding. It took me a long time to admit that her stupidity wasn't a charm point, but weaponized incompetence by an abuser. Story number 2. Happened last night, and I'm still pissed. I drove up to a roundabout and was the first one to arrive at the scene of a pretty rough car accident that just happened. It was between a cop car and a car with a couple of younger women. All airbags deployed, the girl's car was definitely totaled. We pulled up and the cop was rolling out of the driver's seat, and I called 911 for an ambulance. The cop seemed okay and went to check on the younger girls, who were screaming and definitely hurt, shocked. We heard sirens and other cop cars showed up immediately, so the best thing we figured to do was get out of the way and go about our night. The idiot part is this. We get in our truck and I tell my boyfriend he has time to pull back into the now backed up roundabout. His response was, "Hold on, I'm making a Snapchat post." And I was like, what the fuck? We need to clear out of here before it gets too busy. And so we're not in the way of the cops is now really the time. Then I see the post. It was a video of the accident. Then the camera panning back to him, smiling, saying, "They're out here getting the police too." Now, to clarify, we weren't at the accident site for long, so during the time I was checking on the cop, and the girl was screaming in pain from her car and the officer was trying to get her out. My boyfriend was recording that dumbass video. 1. I found that disgustingly insensitive at the very least. 2. I called him a little bitch for his first instinct to be pulling out his phone and recording. We drove home in silence that night, and I still don't know what to say to address that dumbass childish behavior. Story number 3. OMG, I have a few great ones. I love my husband dearly, and he's a great engineer, but goddamn. I grew up on a farm, and one of our barn kitties had a litter of kittens, of which only one boy and one girl survived. So we made both kittens our house kitties because they're bonded. Eventually, we had to split them up and keep them in separate rooms until they could be fixed, and my dearest husband was confused because he thought, they're brother and sister. They don't do that. My response? I had to explain to him they're a boy kitty and a girl kitty, and they'll reproduce with each other, even if they're littermates. Well, now. This winter, he wrecked all 4 newish tires on my SUV because he drove around in it for a week with the low air warning light on without bothering to put air in them. By the time I got it back from him, I had heat rings on all 4 tires. He didn't put air in them because he didn't want to be in the cold for 5 minutes. We both lived in very cold northern states our entire lives. Suck it up and put some damn air in the tires. Last summer, our central HVAC unit was leaking water for an unknown reason. I usually deal with house maintenance, but I was away for a family emergency and had him call the HVAC techs to come look at the leak. For context, it was 90 degrees Fahrenheit and humid AF when this happened, so our air conditioner was running. He told the techs our furnace was the thing that was running, not the air conditioner. So I had to call them back out 2 days later so they could look at the AC and appropriately diagnose the issue. Story number 4. 2 weeks after I married my husband, we finished having morning sex after we got up and started coffee, bathroom, and teeth. He went to pee first, and I went second while he washed his hands and got our coffee. Since we didn't use a condom, I took birth control. He asked why I was taking so long to get it out this time. Just happens. Well, your coffee is ready, so it'll help. Scratch pauses. Sorry, huh? It'll help. Coffee makes you pee. It'll flush it out. Blinking for 10 seconds, but felt like an hour. Deadpan. Where do you think I pee from? He was thinking so hard. He legit thought we pee out of our vaginas. I made him watch a video after giving him a verbal lesson. The funniest part is he's so kind and sympathetic to any women's issues and has always, and still does even more so, called out any friend or coworker, now subordinates even, for their lack of sympathy or mocking. He just wasn't taught in school and not taught at home. Last night I mentioned the aughts, as in 2000-2009. He asked what I meant. I've used the term plenty of times, with him. I explained the term, this is all verbal, and he said, "Is that saying they're autistic? Like autistic era?" I couldn't even be offended as he laughed because he was laughing thinking it was a mean term. And just, what the fuck, that's awful. But like it's so awful and shocking it's funny. South Park example. I had to show him proof and just turn on a podcast. I love this man so much, he's so intelligent, he can do so much. But sometimes his brain just goes to Patrick Star mode. Story number 5. This was some years ago, but she wanted to use her iPod as a dedicated music player in her car. The problem was her car stereo didn't have Bluetooth capability, just a CD player, cassette deck, and radio. I suggested swinging by Best Buy to get one of those cassette adapters that plug into the headphone jack of the iPod and play through the cassette head that way. She looked at me like I was nuts. She kept insisting that there was no cassette player and couldn't understand where I got that idea. I pushed open the flap in front of the cassette slot and could see the pinch rollers and heads. But because the flap had Sony Remote printed on it, she was convinced that the cassette slot was actually a holding place for the remote control when it wasn't being used. I pointed out that they just printed that on there to advertise a feature of the deck. But no. She kept reminding me that she knew her car stereo and would know whether it had a tape deck or not. We argued about it for a few minutes before I gave up. Months later, when we were driving somewhere in her car, I nonchalantly popped a cassette into the deck. Needless to say, it played fine. She didn't utter a word. Nor did I. We never talked about it again. Sometimes it's best just to let it go. Story number 6. Ex-wife. Complained Apple Pay wouldn't work /link or whatever. I suggested she contact Apple support or go down to the Apple store. Kept refusing to go to the store, saying she'd call customer support and go from there. One day while at work, she texts me asking where to get iTunes gift cards. Already a red flag. Why do you need those? I ask. She stated to me that Apple support is requesting the codes so they can verify funds. I told her it's a bad idea, it's a scam, and to just go to the Apple store. An argument broke out and nothing was discussed further. I get home that night and notice eight $100 iTunes gift card holders in the kitchen. I asked her if she sent the codes to anyone, in which another argument broke out. She said she posted in an Apple support thread and an anonymous user replied to her, telling her to call this number, obviously unaffiliated with Apple. Some say her Apple Pay still doesn't connect to this day. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more incredible Reddit tales. Share your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments below. I love hearing from you all. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring those amazing stories.